and now we enter Season 5, which was almost the final season. So, what did they do for a final season? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in space! That's right, after being captured by this weird guy, Enoch, Coulson, Daisy, Mac, Yo-Yo, and Simmons were teleported by a white monolith, similar to the one that led to Maveth, to a space station called the Lighthouse, that was under the control of the Kree Empire and populated by human slaves. The Kree are being led by this guy, Cassius, a real creep, who forces Simmons to become one of his gold-painted servant girls, and plans to sell Daisy for the highest bidder, one of whom is Fitz. It turns out the white monolith didn't send the team to space, it sent them into the future, but Enoch left Fitz behind, leading to him getting arrested and used by this unhappy chick named General Hale to track the team down. Fortunately, Fitz is rescued by a surprise guest appearance, Lance Hunter. He shows up to get Fitz out, and together they track down Enoch, who turns out to be a sentient machine called a Chronicom, and he left Fitz behind so he could save the team later. He was told to do this by Robin. You remember Robin, don't you? She was that guy who could see the future in Season 3's daughter. Told you stuff came back, but you haven't seen anything yet. So it turns out Robin developed inhuman powers as well, but rather than seeing how people die, she sees everything, and does so by painting the future. When Enoch reveals they can't use the time travel monolith again to get Fitz to the future, instead they'll have to use a cryopod, put Fitz to sleep for 75 years so he can show up at the right time to save everybody. It turns out the Lighthouse was originally an old S.H.I.E.L.D. base on Earth that had been upgraded into a space station when the planet was destroyed. No one knows exactly what happened, but this guy, Deke, a Han Solo-type smuggler who's been using old framework code to create a virtual Earth, reveals that Daisy might have done it herself. The few survivors of humanity made it to the Lighthouse, and an alliance of alien species took control, promising to protect them. You might be wondering how an underground bunker became a space station. If not, well, that proves you're not Fitz and Simmons, because they go snooping and discover the ship is powered by Gravitonium. You remember that stuff, right? Way back in Season 1? Yeah, at some point between the team's present and the destruction of the Earth, someone found a bunch and used it, but that's a mystery for later. The team is only reunited briefly before May is sentenced to death by being sent down to the ruined pieces of Earth. While Enoch goes to get her, Coulson, Daisy, Deke, Fitz, and Simmons head to Earth to investigate a signal sent by Deke's deceased father, while Mac and Elena stay with this badass Inhuman kid named Flint, who can control rocks to help overthrow Cassius. On the ruins of Earth, the team are reunited with May and Enoch and meet up with this guy, who is a friend of Deke's dad, and a still-alive Robin, who grew up on the Lighthouse and was apparently raised by May. They have a tearful reunion, but that doesn't last long. But they are able to retrieve a broken piece of the white monolith that Fitz can use to get everybody back to their own time, so that maybe they can stop Daisy from destroying the world or whatever. So they head back to the station using their jet from the past, the Zephyr, that has also been upgraded with Gravitonium, and Fitz realizes he must have done the upgrades himself, meaning they already went back in time once before and nothing changed. Or something like that. To further compound this, Elena discovers Cassius has a useful source of information about the team. A version of herself from the future. One who is missing her arms and has been killed and resurrected through Kree blood over and over again. Future Elena reveals to the present one that they failed to stop the world from shattering because Coulson is dying and they wasted time trying to save him. Meanwhile, Skye gets implanted with an inhuman power suppressor, but that doesn't stop her from killing Cassius' bodyguard. Unfortunately, this results in Cassius going a little nutty, resulting in him taking this weird drug called odium that gives you super strength, but will eventually kill you. However, he doesn't get the chance, because after killing future Yo-Yo, Mac kicks the blue guy's ass. And so, with the Kree defeated, Flint is able to use his powers to rebuild the monolith, while Enoch and Deke sacrifice themselves to activate the machine to send the rest of the team back to their own time. And with this hopeful sight, Season 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. draws to a yeah, I'm not falling for that either. It's only halfway! So the team finds themselves back in the present in the pre-spaceflight lighthouse, where they encounter another Chronicom named Noah, who was hanging out after Enoch went into space with a frozen Fitz. They also discover, along with the white monolith, 2 more, including one that appears identical to the one that sent Simmons to Maveth. How did they get there? We still don't actually know. Maybe Season 7? It's possible because they do find a recording from Rick Stoner, one of the first directors of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the Lighthouse, and spoiler alert, he's going to show up in the final season, but that's not important right now. What is important is Deke is alive! Somehow, he got dragged into the past with the rest of the team, but ended up in a nearby town. Daisy finds him and is able to bring him back to the base, which was pretty risky considering the team were all fugitives for attempting to kill Talbot. Meanwhile, the rest of the team goes to investigate a weird signal that supposedly ties into Daisy allegedly killing the planet. It's there they discover General Hale is still looking for them, and she's got a team of robots. She also has a teenage daughter named Ruby, but she seems like your typical average girl with no idea that her mom is evil. Oh my god, Elena! Who did this?! Teenagers. But fortunately, they got the signal. Unfortunately, it was a bomb, and so Noah heroically sacrifices himself by taking the bomb and putting it in a secure room. The same room with the monoliths. Godspeed, Noah. We hardly knew ye. Literally, this was your only appearance. So, a bomb destroyed 3 monoliths, one with the power to travel through time, one that can travel through space, and one with powers currently unknown. This should have no consequences, right? Yes, somehow the destruction of the 3 monoliths have blown a hole into a fear dimension, where physical manifestations of everyone's greatest fears are created. And what do you know? It's the 100th episode. Callback time! LMDs, check. Xenomorphs, check. Lash, check. Hive, check. Deathlock. That's Deathlock, check. That's right, our old cyborg pal returns after being absent for a long time to help Coulson use the device Fitz built to temporarily close the portal to the fear dimension. Unfortunately, doing so reveals a secret of Coulson's. Allowing himself to be possessed by the Ghost Rider somehow burnt up the Kree blood that had been keeping Coulson alive all this time. He's got maybe days to live. Weeks if he's lucky. But we can't dwell on that now. It's the 100th episode. Time for a wedding. Yes, Fitz and Simmons finally got their happy ending, proving that Fitz's long-held paranoid belief that they were cursed was completely wrong. Everything is going to work out just fine. Hey, Fitz even figures out a way to permanently close the portal, Gravitonium. So the team tracks down an old pal of Max named Tony, who tells them the Gravitonium was last seen on a boat that disappeared. Except it didn't disappear, it flew into the sky. Team head to the ship, but only find a little bit of Gravitonium, as well as more of Hale's evil robots. Fortunately, Max survives and gets the element back to the base, even capturing one of the robots for Fitz to study. Meanwhile, Hale and her evil brat set out to build a team of supervillains. They managed to recruit Ivanov, who'd been controlling the robots this whole time, Werner von Strucker from Season 3, who, after exposure to a device they used to alter Coulson's memories in Season 1, gave him perfect recollection, and the Absorbing Man himself, Creel, who thinks Hale's a good guy and wants revenge on S.H.I.E.L.D. for trying to kill his boss Talbot. Back with the team, Fitz has been under a lot of stress lately, what with the framework, time travel, trying to stop the end of the world, trying to save Coulson, and there's also this tear in the universe that makes people's fear become reality. It's enough to make anyone crack. Unfortunately, the odds become better if you're someone who's already had prior brain damage.
You are weak! No!
Fitz!
So, Fitz develops a split personality and goes on a rampage, attacking Deke and Mac, having one of the reprogrammed robots point a gun at Simmons, and finally strapping Daisy to an operating table to forcibly remove the inhibitor so she can use her powers to mold the Gravitonium and close the portal to the fear dimension for good. And then he gets locked up because he was acting like a psycho. Naturally, Simmons is devastated by everything going on, but Deke is able to give her some good news. Proof that her and Fitz are going to be okay. Deke is Fitz and Simmons' grandson from the future. Fitz takes it well.
But he's the worst.
Meanwhile, the team manages to capture Hale, but she reveals she's turned Creel into a bomb and forces Coulson to come with her. Coulson is taken to Hale's base, which is revealed to be the hitherto unseen Hydra Academy, a secret S.H.I.E.L.D. base that trained an entire generation of young Nazis to infiltrate every branch of the government so they could one day take over. So yes, Hydra is back. God damn it. It turns out Ruby is a special baby. Hale was artificially inseminated with her by none other than Whitehall. Remember? From Season 2? I told you, everything comes back sooner or later. Anyways, Ruby was genetically designed to be a super soldier like Captain America, one that would be raised to eventually become the leader of Hydra. Hale is revealed to be holding Talbot prisoner and gives Coulson the opportunity to join forces. Hale reveals she's been contacted by a group of aliens called the Confederacy, whose members include Cassius' father, and they are offering to help protect humanity from an upcoming invasion. An invasion that made a freaking awesome movie, but that's unrelated. However, Hale doesn't want to be indebted to some untrustworthy aliens, so she has a different plan. Whitehall had designed a machine that confused a person with an element. It was designed to be used on Ruby, but Hale's worried it would kill her daughter, so she decides they could use it on Daisy. Her powers combined with the Gravitonium would make her unstoppable. Coulson tries to explain that earthquakes plus gravity-controlling element would be bad and could destroy the planet. But Hale finds time travel of all things unbelievable and locks Coulson up. Meanwhile, Daisy decides being able to see the future would be useful, so she and May head out to track down Robin so she can tell them where Coulson is. Back with the Nazis, Hale decides to run an experiment by having Creel absorb a small portion of the Gravitonium. It does not go well. Instead, it seems to drive him crazy because he hears two voices in his head. It turns out somehow Dr. Hall, from Season 1, is still alive inside the Gravitonium, and at some point between Season 1 and 2, our old pal Reyna pushed Ian Quinn, also from Season 1, into the Gravitonium as well. So these two brilliant but dangerous scientists are inside of this extremely powerful element, and they really don't like Coulson. Fortunately, Creel gets things under control for the most part, and is able to help Coulson and Talbot escape, where they are promptly rescued thanks to Robin showing Daisy where to find them. Unfortunately for Hale, Ruby is going through a seriously rebellious teenage phase, and she and Werner lock Hale up and make Ivanov work for them. However, he doesn't last long, as Yo-Yo and Simmons break Fitz out of his cell and go to find Whitehall's machine so they can destroy it. There, Yo-Yo confronts Ivanov and finishes him off, thus finally preventing the robot apocalypse. Maybe. Ruby and Werner force Fitz and Simmons to turn the machine on, and she begins fusing herself with the Gravitonium. Unfortunately for her, even 8% was too much, and she loses control, killing Werner. Just when it seems like she's going to kill everybody, Yo-Yo shows up and gets revenge for her hands, and the team manages to escape with the Gravitonium. But it's revealed that Hale had Talbot brainwashed, and he attempts to abduct Robin. Fortunately, Coulson and Mac are able to get him back to normal, or as normal as he can be after being shot in the head and brainwashed. Talbot and Fitz should start a club. But it looks like everything is okay. Ruby is dead, Talbot is still a good guy, and S.H.I.E.L.D. has the Gravitonium under lock and key. What could go wrong?
It came out of nowhere.
Oh, right. The Confederacy. Hale and her alien buddies show up to retake the Gravitonium, and while the team tries to fight them off, the mentally unstable Talbot has an idea. He puts all the Gravitonium inside of him. At first, he seems okay. But after he and Coulson meet the Confederacy themselves, he starts acting a little nutty. Especially after he's told a certain purple jerk named Thanos is coming to Earth. The Confederacy tell Talbot he can get even stronger if he absorbs the rest of the Gravitonium stored underground. Unfortunately, it becomes obvious to Coulson that Talbot was the destroyer of worlds the whole time. His efforts to fight Thanos are going to shatter the planet. Talbot does not take it well. He murders Hale and lets the Confederacy abduct Coulson, May, and Daisy while he travels back to Earth to find more Gravitonium. Fortunately, Fitz, Simmons, and Deke are able to upgrade their plane with some smaller Gravitonium samples and fly into space to rescue their friends. After sending the leader of the Confederacy packing, May and Deke teleport back to Earth while Coulson and Daisy go to find Talbot, who's not doing great. First of all, he murders Creel to take the tiny amount of Gravitonium inside of him, then he goes home and nearly kills his wife because she seemingly sold him out to Hydra. She was being threatened, but, he's crazy. Luckily, his son is able to convince him to stop, so Talbot vows to prove he's a hero to his son by kidnapping a little girl. Talbot grabs Robin and her mother to force her to tell him where he can find more Gravitonium. Meanwhile, the team reunites and comes up with a plan to stop Talbot. Unfortunately, the plan would kill Coulson. You see, Daisy was looking for a way to save Coulson and tracked down the last sample of the formula that gave Deathlock his superpowers all those years ago. Unfortunately, it was missing a stabilizing element. Daisy was able to find it by digging up her mother's corpse. Awkward. So, all they have to do is combine Jiaying's DNA with the formula, and Coulson will live. However, there's another option. They combine the formula with Cassius' Kree suicide steroid, Odium, and inject Talbot with it. The team has a big disagreement over what should be done before May takes matters into her own hands and destroys the odium. So, yay! Coulson will live! You know, for about 5 minutes, considering Talbot's going to crack the planet open like an egg. But Phil is able to give a rousing speech and convinces Daisy she might be able to beat Talbot, or at least reason with him, so the team splits up. Mac, May, and Fitz go to rescue Robin and her mom, Simmons and Yo-Yo stay behind to look after Coulson, and Daisy goes to confront Talbot, aka Graviton. Daisy attempts to appeal to Talbot's patriotism and how much he cares for his country and his son. So I guess you could say she tries to reason with him with the power of love. It does not work. What a surprise. This leads to a really bad day for Daisy. That is, until she makes a discovery. Coulson didn't take the formula. Instead, he hid it in Daisy's gauntlets. Heroically, Daisy juices up and unleashes a massive blast, sending Talbot flying into space. It's actually pretty sad. Talbot wasn't evil, he was crazy and he needed help. But sometimes you can't save everybody. Isn't that right, Fitz? No. Fitz heroically sacrifices his life to save Robin and her mother, and dies with May and Mac watching over him. And I gotta say, as one of my favorite characters, this was devastating. But there's hope. Fitz may be gone, but technically he's a future version of him. There is a present-day version still in a cryopod somewhere in space, and the team, with Mac as the new director, set off to find him. Well, not the whole team. Without the formula to save him, Coulson decides to finally take a trip to Tahiti and spend his final days in the sun and sand. And he does it with May, who wants to stay with him for as long as they have. Considering this was almost the series finale, it was pretty awesome. Sure, there's the question of if they save Fitz, but if this had been the end, I think it would have been pretty satisfying. But of course, this was not the end. My friends, it's been a long road, and if you actually made it all the way to the end and put up with my terrible jokes, you deserve a pat on the back. But it's time for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6, the penultimate season. This season starts off with 3 major story arcs, 1 on Earth and 2 in space, so let's go through the space stuff first, at least until they all meet up. First off, it's been a year since Coulson and Fitz died, and most of the team is back on Earth. Daisy and Simmons, along with Piper and Davis, are still out in space looking for the frozen Fitz and Enoch. They've been traveling together for a while and are starting to develop some issues. Daisy has apparently become an intergalactic terror, decimating anyone who gets in their way so the rest of the Confederacy and any other space bad guys will leave them alone. Meanwhile, Simmons has gone a little crazy and is obsessed with finding Fitz, even if it endangers everyone else. And Piper and Davis really want to help, but are frankly getting sick of space. The crew manages to find Enoch's ship, but it's been destroyed by an unknown attacker, and the cryopod is empty. Daisy, Piper, and Davis want to go back to Earth and resupply, but Simmons decides that Fitz would have gone to the planet the cryopod was designed on so he could get back to sleep, and forcibly takes control of the navigation and teleportation device they got from the Confederacy to teleport the ship to the planet against everyone else's will. However, when they arrive at that planet, they are attacked by a bounty hunter looking for Fitz. It turns out he's a Chronicon like Enoch, and because Fitz died back on Earth, he's now a time-traveling anomaly, and the Chronicons want his secret. They manage to knock him out, and learn Fitz is apparently on the planet Kitson. Daisy and Simmons go to Kitson, where they get unbelievably high, thanks to some alien food. Despite this, they are able to find Enoch and Fitz, only for a teleporter to show up and teleport Fitz away. Shortly after, Daisy, Simmons, and Enoch are attacked by more Chronicons, led by Atara, Enoch's former boss, who he apparently had robot sex with. I really don't want to think about that. Atara reveals that the Chronicon home planet has been destroyed, and they want to use time travel to save it. Wanting to save his homeworld, Enoch betrays the others, and Simmons is captured as well, with Daisy and the rest of the crew being permitted to return back to Earth. Meanwhile, Fitz and Simmons are finally reunited. They get put inside of a weird matrix where they have to figure out time travel, but as they are both really emotionally vulnerable people, hijinks ensue.
I should strangle you because your shadow self just tried to erase my brain with a torture machine.
You did shoot his father. That's called revenge. I don't know what I did to deserve that horror movie!
Fitz has a lot to learn, including Coulson's death, his marriage to Simmons, his own death, and the fact he has an incredibly disappointing grandson. Just kidding, Deke. You are loved. Eventually, however, the two are able to admit all their fears and traumas and come together, just in time for Enoch to have the robot equivalent of a change of heart and rescue his fleshy buddies. However, Enoch can't stay because he still wants to help his people, so he drops Fitzsimmons back at Kitson before heading off. Fortunately, the lovely couple aren't stranded for too long. They meet S.H.I.E.L.D, an alien archaeologist looking for something she thinks can be found on Earth. She convinces the two to trust her, and together they find a ship and a crew to get them back home. It turns out the things S.H.I.E.L.D is looking for is the monoliths that were destroyed. This is going to get awkward. Especially so when it's revealed S.H.I.E.L.D is evil and has infected the crew with these weird bird parasite things called shrikes that can explode into crystals. And now she's going to Earth. Uh-oh.
Had to mention it, didn't you?
But for now, let's get back on track and see how things on Earth have been going. So S.H.I.E.L.D has been doing pretty good. They've rebuilt their ranks, again, and are now fully operating out of the lighthouse with Mac as director. Coulson had actually wanted Daisy to take the job, but she felt she wasn't ready, so she gladly gave the job to Mac. May is also rejoined after Coulson passed away. She's struggling with his death, but is trying to move on. She even helps Mac recruit a new science specialist. This guy, Dr. Marcus Benson, a former colleague of May's ex, who Mac wants to help establish a new S.H.I.E.L.D. academy. Meanwhile, S.H.I.E.L.D is investigating these mysterious people who keep teleporting onto Earth. They consist of Jocko, a big muscular guy with a breathing disorder, Pax, a whiny mercenary and smart guy, and Snowflake, a crazy murderous psycho who thinks people turn into butterflies when they die. There's also this guy Tinker, but he's just set dressing. Together, these mysterious mercs track down the location where their boss is expected to show up, a museum. They promptly blow it up to make room for their boss and his terrifying truck. And who is their boss?
You're from S.H.I.E.L.D.
Never heard of it.
That's right, Season 6 is giving us Evil Coulson. Or, as his team calls him, Sarge. While Sarge and his crew go on a crime spree collecting diamonds to power a device of theirs, Dr. Benson discovers a recording on Tinker that shows the mercenaries on a planet right before it's destroyed, but it's ambiguous if they were escaping or if they were the cause. The device Sarge wants to power is some kind of tracking device, and allows him and the crew to track seemingly random people and then stab them to death with weird blue daggers. S.H.I.E.L.D. recovers one of the bodies, and when Benson performs an autopsy, it's revealed the person had a shrike in them, and removing the dagger brings it back to life. This leads to a bad time when it flies into Elena's current boyfriend and starts the whole crystal explosion, leaving her with only one option: stab him with the dagger. Meanwhile, we catch up with Deke, who started a tech company developing S.H.I.E.L.D. and future tech for public use, even turning the framework into a video game. Unfortunately, being from a different time causes Deke to show up on Sarge's radar. Luckily, Mac and May manage to rescue him and capture Pax and Jocko. Unfortunately, Sarge and Snowflake escape while abducting May in the process. Sarge explains he's been hunting the Shrikes and the creator S.H.I.E.L.D. for centuries because they destroy planets when enough of them gather in one location, and Sarge believes S.H.I.E.L.D. killed his family. He also has no explanation as to why he and Coulson look the same, but since he's hundreds of years old, he assumes Coulson is a copy of him, but May has doubts. She manages to overpower Sarge and transports him and Snowflake into S.H.I.E.L.D. custody, just in time for Daisy, Piper, and Davis to show up and be freaked out by Sarge. The team interrogates Sarge's crew and learn they all are apparently survivors after their planets were destroyed. Also, Jocko's breathing issues result in him breathing fire. Sarge, meanwhile, continues to be a prick and tells Mac by the end of the day he's going to be asking Sarge for advice, which ends up happening when two Shrike in close proximity explode and nearly kill some of the team. Sarge tells them what to do, but only if they release his crew. Meanwhile, Benson has discovered that the crystals the Shrike make, Sarge's daggers, and the monoliths are all apparently made of the same stone, and what's more, a Mayan temple seems to be made of the same rock as well, so Benson goes to investigate. S.H.I.E.L.D. reluctantly teams up with Sarge and his crew, just in time too, as S.H.I.E.L.D. on Fitz and Simmons' ship approaches Earth. And they know exactly where it's going to land, because all the Shrike-infested people are gathering in one spot to build a giant crystal tower. Mac has May, Daisy, and Deke accompany Sarge and Snowflake on the truck, while Mac falls into Zephyr, with Pax and Jocko aboard, still imprisoned. While May and Daisy try to figure out more about Sarge and his past, Deke makes a new friend with Snowflake. Unfortunately for this blossoming romance, Sarge reveals his plan to kill S.H.I.E.L.D. is a little more explosive. Realizing the bomb he has could kill hundreds of people, May, Daisy, and Deke turn on Sarge, but he manages to escape using a teleportation device to get to the Zephyr, leaving them, and Snowflake, to die. Daisy manages to use her powers to safely contain the bomb, preventing it from exploding, but the truck still takes the tower down, releasing a whole bunch of strike. But Daisy manages to quake them all apart like a boss. This doesn't deter Sarge, who orders the Zephyr to fly towards S.H.I.E.L.'s ship. Fitz and Simmons manage to contact the Zephyr, which unfortunately results in a reunion of Sarge and S.H.I.E.L.D., who tells them that the family he believes she killed never existed. Sarge takes this news badly, and after killing Pax, orders the Zephyr to keep going, but Mac has had enough and takes back his ship. He even gets some backup when Yo-Yo convinces Jocko that Sarge's obsession is going to get everyone killed. With Sarge locked up, Mac, Elena, Davis, and Jocko infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.'s ship and rescue Fitz and Simmons, but S.H.I.E.L.D. disappears. The team then uses Sarge's teleporting tech to send themselves to the truck, where the gang is reunited, and Fitz gets to be a grandpappy.
Bobo! What's happening?
Oh, I'm so happy to see you!
Who are you exactly?
Unfortunately, Jocko may have realized Sarge was losing it, but he wasn't going to let S.H.I.E.L.D. get away. He teleports himself back onto the ship and detonates the bomb. Farewell, Jocko, you wonderful dragon man, but at least S.H.I.E.L.D. is dead. And hey, maybe now May can get through to Sarge. Oh. Okay, this looks bad, but the good news is, Sarge isn't dead. His body starts rapidly healing, while the team realizes S.H.I.E.L.D. can possess people and hitched a ride in Davis. This leads to body-swapping shenanigans until Davis has an accident. S.H.I.E.L.D. then manages to possess Yo-Yo and takes Mac with her in the Zephyr, with the device Fitz made last season to close the tear made by the monoliths. Before she departs, though, she reveals that Sarge and her are both aliens from a world where they don't have physical bodies. Sarge's real name is Pachacootic, and his memories of her killing his family is actually him getting Coulson's memories mixed up. And killing him was supposed to shake his real memories loose. Fitzsimmons realized that the third monolith created things, and when all three were destroyed, it created a copy of Coulson and sent it hundreds of years in the past to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Pachacootic's dimension. Pachacootic then possessed the copy and entered the main universe, only for his memories to get lost. Daisy tries to fight Sarge when he goes on a rampage, but she realizes he's getting more of Coulson's memories back and spares him. Back with S.H.I.E.L.D., she forces Dr. Benson to tell her where the temple is and takes Mac and Yo-Yo with her. She reveals she plans on using the monoliths to open a portal to her world and allow her race to invade and take over. Of course, there's the fact that the monoliths were all destroyed, but Mac and Elena know someone who can rebuild them, and even though they try not to think about him, they can't stop S.H.I.E.L.D. from using the monolith energy to create a duplicate of Flint, using him to rebuild the monoliths. May, Daisy, and Sarge, using bullets made from his daggers, go to the temple to kill S.H.I.E.L.D. and rescue Mac and Elena, while Fitzsimmons and Deke work on creating bracelets that will prevent S.H.I.E.L.D. from possessing people, and on using a teleportation device to get to the temple. Deke reveals he brought his tech company to the lighthouse, and when he and Fitz get into an argument, he rants about how no one likes him, despite all he's done, and promptly teleports to the temple himself. He manages to get the bracelets on Mac, Yo-Yo, and Flint, and helps Flint escape on a jet with Piper. While this is going on, May and Sarge confront S.H.I.E.L.D., who attempts to get Sarge to turn to her side and embrace Pachacootic. May tries to get Sarge to hold on to Coulson's memories by using the power of love. It does not work. At this point, would you consider it a motif? Anyways, May falls through the portal, and because the laws of nature don't really work in the world where people don't have physical bodies, she's suddenly fine. Well, she's got a hole in her, but other than that, she's fine. She's able to use the sword that was just in her to stop a bunch of evil priest dudes from finishing the portal ceremonies on their end, which forces S.H.I.E.L.D. to leave so she can stop her, leaving Pachacootic alone to face Daisy, Mac, and Yo-Yo. Daisy hits him with a quake and...
underestimate me, believing his body could hold me back.
This might be harder than we thought. Meanwhile, May manages to outdo S.H.I.E.L.D., but is unable to stop her from reopening the portal. She then returns back to the main world, warning that May will be dead in seconds if she crosses back. But when is dying ever stopped May? She kills S.H.I.E.L.D, which kills all the Shrike, and throws the sword to Mac, who finishes Pachacootic off for good. Fare thee well, Sarge. You were kind of an asshole and an insult to Coulson's memory, but you were a pretty cool villain. But the season's not over just yet. You see, while the fight with S.H.I.E.L.D and Pachacootic was going on, S.H.I.E.L.D was under attack by Chronicons. You see, Atara managed to get the secret of time travel from Fitz and Simmons, but while she wants to restore her home planet, this guy, Malachi, that bounty hunter from earlier, decides there's a better option: take over Earth. That's right, the time has finally come for the robot apocalypse, and the Chronicons have decided that in the entire Marvel universe, there's only one thing standing in their way: S.H.I.E.L.D. Not Iron Man, Thor, or Captain Marvel, not the Hulk or the entire nation of Wakanda. Heck, not even Black Widow or Captain America. S.H.I.E.L.D. Sure. So the Chronicons show up and start killing a whole bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, but Enoch manages to rescue Fitzsimmons and tells them he's got a plan. Back at the temple, victory is short-lived, as May collapses from her wounds and almost dies. But Simmons and a team show up to put her in a cryopod. Everyone evacuates in an upgraded Zephyr before the Chronicons destroy the temple and the monoliths. Fitz contacts them remotely, revealing he and Simmons need to keep separate so the Chronicons won't know where either is. Simmons explains the Chronicons are using time travel to try and wipe S.H.I.E.L.D. out from history, and uses the upgraded teleportation device, or jump drive, to send the team into the past. But to take on a threat like this, they're going to need an expert on S.H.I.E.L.D. history, and there's only one guy for the job: a Chronicom-enhanced LMD with the face and personality of the real Phil Coulson.
Hey guys.
And that's it. The Chronicons want to wipe S.H.I.E.L.D. out. Robo Coulson and his team are going to travel through time to stop them. How's it going to play out? I have no idea. But now you have all the facts you need to go into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, the final season, and find out. Thank you very much for enjoying my long-winded explanation for a series that deserves a lot of love. Probably condensed like this, it seems pretty confusing, but it's actually very well paced. I highly recommend you check it out. But now, I'm going to pass out and get ready for the season premiere.